Straw Hut Media. We're better together with Ann and Heather.
Hi, everybody. Get ready. You are about to hear two interviews back to back around the incredible movie Scenes from an Empty Church, directed by my dear friend, Onur Tukel. And we have the interview with the two lead actors, Max Casella and
Corrigan. And please do not tune away before you hear Max Casella, who played Vinny, Doogie Howser's best friend in Doogie Howser, MD. He talks about a road trip he took with Neil Patrick Harris's family to Disneyland, and it's hysterical.
You want to hear this one, guys? Enjoy. Welcome back to Better Together. It is a special day for me to be interviewing not only a very dear friend of mine, but a director of one of the most complicated films I ever did with Sandra Oh and Alicia Silverstone called Catfight. His name is Onur Tukel, and he is known as one of the most wonderful, directors of all time. And of course, I was lucky enough to be able to work with him. Take it away, Heather.
Okay, Onur Tukel is a Turkish-American actor, painter, filmmaker, a notable figure in the New York City independent film community. His films often deal with issues of gender and relationships. Onur also wrote and directed Anne in the film Catfight, where Anne co-starred with Sandra Oh and Alicia Silverstone. His most recent film, Scenes from an Empty Church, star Kevin Corrigan, Max Casella, Thomas J. Ryan. The film was shot during COVID and is about a church in lockdown in New York City. Two priests open the church doors to those seeking salvation during the most isolating of times. From the commonplace to the truly metaphysical, their visitors reflect on the full spectrum of personal crises of spirituality. Throughout their encounters with the city's sweetest, wildest, weirdest, the two priests learn the importance of connection, empathy, and open-mindedness. And I saw this film, and
Amen.
I give it a hearty 2 thumbs up. It was fantastic.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for the nice intro, too. It's really an honor to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, let's just talk about this. You just dive right into topics that nobody wants to face, and bring yourself with a sense of humor and also an intellect that I find incredibly unique. Where did this, we will get into Catfight and what that adventure was about for sure. But I think we're both incredibly curious what source did you drive from to be able to come up with this story of spirituality and intent? Where did that come from?
Well, I'm always kind of creating from art, making films and any kind of art that I do. It's therapy for me. I take my anxiety and I take my neuroses, and it's it keeps me busy, because if I have to stew in my dread, I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm always working because I'm always kind of nervous and I'm always anxious. So during the pandemic, obviously everybody was anxious and everyone was going through a collective kind of breakdown. And this opportunity, my friend Andrew Shemin, who I co-wrote the story with, he lived in the rectory beside the church, and he's also the DP of the film, and he had a really nice camera, and he came to me and said, Onur, we have this empty church. I'm part of the church. I have this wonderful camera. Why don't we make a movie? And it was just a matter of opportunity. And the fact that I was, not doing anything, and I was, kind of freaked out. It was like, well, let's do it, because what choice do we have? So it was really a matter of just those opportunities opening up, and also me being completely a basket case constantly and always looking for something to put my dread into. And this was a nice metaphor to put my dread into. But normally, like Catfight, Anna and Heather, my movies are dark and cynical. And it felt like, being dark and cynical at a time during the pandemic was a little redundant. You know what I mean? So it felt like, let me try to make something a little bit more positive, even though we do have the darker third of the movie where we do question some of the hypocrisies of the Catholic Church and question some other things. I wanted to make something that was about hope and about, the importance and the value of being in the same room with someone. You have the body and the soul, but I wanted to make something about the value of being in the room with someone and how important it is to be with someone at a time when we were all very, very separated, So,
well, it was fascinating to me because really it's about, churches closed during the pandemic, and the irony of that, in a way, that when we need that sort of support the most, they close the doors. And in the film, the two priests kind of have a differing of opinion on that. One is very skeptical of letting people in and very afraid because of I don't know how much of the movie we want to give away. So
I wanted to represent. I wanted one of the priests to represent kind of all the protocols and the rules and the stringent like lockdown protocols, and wanted the other one, Kevin Corrigan, Father Andrew, to represent the more humane aspect of saying, look, we can be cautious, we can observe the rules, but we still have to find a way to allow people in. We can't just shut down. Life has to go on. We have to provide a service. The church is supposed to provide a service when people are in need, and that was people were in need during the pandemic. That was a real need during that time for people to exercise their faith, or to talk to God, or to just talk to someone, a priest. And we had this big church, so the idea of like, it makes sense that you wouldn't have 150 people on a Sunday service, during the pandemic. That makes sense. But the idea that, two bodies in a big church, they could socially distance, that was something that we thought, we could exercise in the movie. And that church was locked down. No one came in or out for months. So I'm rambling a little bit. I apologize.
Max Casella's character just kind of came in, and Max Casella, for those listening, he was in The Sopranos. But if you're of the right demographic, and I'm sure he just is so over people bringing this up, but he was Doogie Howser's friend with that like real New York Italian accent.
Yes.
And I don't even think he's Italian, actually, as a little side note. Is he?
I think he might be half Italian and half Jewish. I think his father's Jewish and his mother's Italian.
Yes. Okay. So anyways, his character comes in and is just kind of bulldozes through as they're saying, no, you can't go into, he's like, that's ridiculous. I'm going into, and so it's also how everybody sort of looked at COVID differently. Everybody's approach to COVID was the same. And you didn't really know, based on the people, friends, some people reacted in ways that I never expected, and others reacted in ways I've never expected.
Well, it's kind of like the Republicans and the churchgoers were like, wait a minute, we should be able to congregate no matter what. We're not really affected by COVID, are we? I mean, it did seem like that in every political arena. There was like, we got together. I'm rich, so I'm not going to get it.
I am Catholic, so I know a lot. I know a lot about Catholic priests. Actually, they've gotten a bad rap, but they're the only reason I'm still Catholic. For me, I think, as we all know, I think the nuns are the ones that are
I've tried to kick that out of her for years, evil. And I just can't. I to no avail.
But I said I've never been such a good Catholic since COVID, because Zoom Mass is the best.
Zoom Mass. A lot of people got addicted to that.
That was something that we thought about maybe there was a scene that I was going to write where we were going to have like a Zoom Mass, but we wanted to keep as much as possible we were all living off Zoom, so we thought we want to keep, and it was hard enough to think. We were all very scared of making a COVID movie because we thought, who's going to want to watch this movie during COVID, because we're all living it. But the last thing, not to criticize anyone making Zoom movies, I know a lot of Zoom movies were made during COVID, but we didn't want to make a movie that had a lot of that in there, a lot of the zooming in the movie. You know what I mean? We wanted to keep it as much as possible with body. Although the Paul Reiser scene, we wanted to get one scene in there for two reasons. We can go into that later, but like there's a little bit of the zooming in there.
I think you attack subjects in a very unique way. One of the things I thought about Catfight was that you were looking at war. When I said that Onur wanted to make $100 million movie, he didn't have that. He had a pencil. So what he did was write a war between two women, and that was Sandra Oh and me, who had been to college, and they were nemesis. And the building of every single thing that Onur felt about war and its atrocities came out through these two women and their behavior over a period of time. And I would wonder what this movie, when you talk about spirituality, what that battle was with you, and how long you've been wanting to write about the subject of spirituality.
I've never really wanted to write about spirituality, to be honest. When it came to Catfight, I'd been harboring a lot of resentment and bitterness about the war in Iraq, since 2004. And that had been festering. That had been around. It was a traumatic time for me when we were going through that. Catfight was about, the violence of war that you don't get to see, that they don't show you. That's why it's such a violent movie. Like, I used to feel like a little guilty because I'm like, people sign up to watch a fun, dark comedy with Anne Heche and Sandra Oh, and, the first kind of 15 minutes kind of gives that to them until that first fight, which is, it's almost rated X. It's so violent. And I wanted it to be that deliberately, even though it's a little bit unfair because the audience is not prepared for it. But I felt like we were making an kind of a movie about war and the horrors of war. And I wanted to be something extremely violent to show that, because you don't get to see how violent war is normally. Okay. And then that said, I've never really wanted to make a movie about spirituality, but if I felt like if I ever get a chance to say something about Catholicism or America as a Christian nation, I had to one of the things that bothered me during the war in Iraq was that so many churches and so many Christian friends that I knew were supportive of the war. You know what I mean? And I had a really hard time dealing with that because my relationship, I don't really have a personal relationship with Jesus, but at the same time, what he represented was amazing to me. Like as a person of what he represented, peace and love and unity, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm like, how would Jesus ever be for war? It was something. So if I ever made a movie about spirituality, I wanted to throw that in there. And that's what the kind of the white girl in the movie represents when she shows up and is basically questioning the tenets of Christian Catholicism. I wanted her anger to come out because I wanted to be able to say my piece about that. You know what I mean?
I think the way that you confront people is a recognition that people don't see. When you talk about catfight and people want to understand, he did 3 fights in that movie that were more violent than the next. I mean, I threw Sandra down a staircase and she was bleeding from her head. That's like fight 1. Fight 2 is in a tire shop and we're like cranking. It was, tires at each other and throwing each other up against the anvils. I mean, this is not
hitting each other in the faces with wrenches and hammers. Extremely violent.
What other names were in the running for the film? Can you remember anything?
For Catfight?
Yeah.
That was always, it started with Catfight. I was hanging out with my friend DeVoe Yates. He's a music supervisor for the movie. And we were talking about movies that we loved that were centered around fist fights. One particular movie from the 80s that we really loved called 3 O'Clock High. And I don't know who thought, it was like Catfight. We should make a movie called Catfight. We just said that. So it was like, oh my God, let's do that. It sounds amazing. And that's the impetus of it, So that's where it all started. I remember I've been accused of being movie being misogynistic, that we made this movie because I was fetishizing violence against women. Like I wanted to see women, I got off on seeing women beat the shit out of each other, which is not true. I wanted to make a movie that was about colossal loss. And I thought, when it comes to war, what is the worst thing that happens? The loss of life, obviously, loss of innocent life. And I thought who would suffer the most during that more than anyone else? It would be the mother of the children of people who died, So I thought if that is what Anne's character and Sandra's character were fighting over, blaming the other one for their loss of their offspring, which is, that would be the most valiant thing to fight about. That would be the most vicious thing to fight about. So again, it is a dark, funny comedy, but I think it's very sad too, It's funny. Sometimes I'm afraid to fly. I'm mostly afraid to fly because I want to live. But in those kind of melancholic periods of my life where I'm like, I don't care if I live or die. I'll fly anywhere and not care. You know what I mean?
Way. I'm like, I'm not wearing a seatbelt. I could use a week in a hospital. Yeah,
absolutely. And if the plane's turbulent, if there's turbulence on the plane, I'm just like, oh, good. It's gonna happen. I don't have to deal with this life anymore.
I feel I'm the exact same way.
Do you believe in an afterlife, Onur?
I want to believe in something. I desperately want to believe in consciousness after us. You know what I mean? I feel like the possibility that we're energy soaring inside of us, and that when we die, all that energy goes into the universe or goes back into the earth, or maybe it gets, or maybe there's reincarnation. That's not, I believe that could be a possibility, but that's not really comforting because I want consciousness of who I am now. You know what I mean? Right. If there's an afterlife, I want to be able to think, oh, I'm going to see my mom, or I'm going to get to talk to Annie, or I'm going to get to see my other friends. It's like, but that's hard. It's hard to believe that, right? Yes. And then if you think about the idea of when we're born, the whole nature versus nurture argument, are our personalities formed through our parents and our friends or environment? If that's the case, then there was no personality traits afflicted to our soul to begin with. You know what I mean? Unless you believe that there's, once we're born, that's who we are. Anne H was Anne H as soon as she was born, or was she shaped by her surroundings?
I think it's a little of both. I think that having two kids that are very different.
Let's hope I wasn't this when I was born.
They come how they come. Kids come how they come.
Let's hope so, and let's hope it keeps going. Heather, what about your kids?
Well, I was just saying, kids come how they come, and you see, like, even if you think of your siblings or if you have kids, they're very different, and I think that you come with certain characteristics that you're going to have no matter what.
Yeah.
But they are shaped a little bit through your socialization and, the family that you were born into. But there are parts of you that are going to be you no matter what. Right. So I think it's a combination of the two.
Are you like your mom or your dad, one or the other more?
I'm definitely more like my mom. She was bubbly and had a big personality, very social, silly, didn't take things too seriously, and my mom was tough love. She never let me celebrate myself too much. She never let me be too self-important about my work. So I have a very self-deprecating kind of attitude and also I had two older brothers who loved and supported me, but at the same time, we're all, never really giving me the credit that I thought I deserved when it came to my creative aspects and all that. So, which is good. It kept me humble, because, filmmakers can be very self-important. A lot of people, we all think that we were really contributing. And I think that we contribute to some degree. I think that movies make a difference. I think that culture makes a difference. But at the same time, I can get a little full of myself. After 20 years of having failure in this business, I'm very humbled about things, On
our show, we like to, because we are called Better Together, we like to ask, obviously, Heather is my betterer. That's why we are together, and why we balance each other and make each other better. So we like to ask and know if there's somebody in your life that has been that source of strength for you when you don't necessarily feel
I'm gonna
it.
sneeze. I'm gonna sneeze, and I'll tell you. I'm waiting for my sneeze.
God is blessing you.
So I am supposed to say somebody in my life who's made me a better person.
It's not, somebody who betters you, who you count on for that, and why.
Yeah, there's my ex-girlfriend. We dated for 7 years, and
I think I know her. Do I know her? Did she play my assistant?
Yeah, she played your assistant in the movie, Ariel. And we're just friends now. We've been friends for 3 years now, and still very, very close. And she's helped me. She's the kind of person that I have a lot of rage, and I'm a very angry person. And she's taught me to, like, I would lose my temper or something like that, and she would just laugh at me and be like, "You're an idiot," basically. You know what I mean? Like, what are you getting so angry about? And if I ever said something mean or disrespectful, she would basically say, "Apologize or I'm leaving." Like, she's taught me about apologizing and taught me about kind of respect. I'm not there yet. She's like, "You're still an insane person and you need therapy." But like, she's at least taught me how to be a little bit more empathic, towards the feelings of other people. And she's an extreme feminist that I think is good, because who's been called a misogynistic male, it teaches me to open my mind a little bit more, and consider what women go through and how, the patriarchy has had a leg up, and how, being a male, you do get certain benefits. So, she's just one of my dear friends, and, she's not perfect, and I'm constantly criticizing her, and she's, but she's also a filmmaker and an artist, and to see what she's going through when I was her age, and how passionate and optimistic and passionate she is, it's she makes me a better person, in a lot of ways.
I absolutely adore you. We are going to take away forgiveness,
yes,
and also recognize that people around us are actually are interested in embracing us for who we are. And I hope I don't get nailed for that one, because not everybody is living in loving consciousness. We love you, Onur.
I love you, Annie. Thank you. And Heather, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mwah.
We're better together with Ann and Heather.
We have today Max Casella and Kevin Corrigan. You can see them right now in the film Scenes from an Empty Church. One of you is a priest in Scenes from an Empty Church, and the other one plays a fantastic character, Max. I saw the film. It's so terrific. We've spoken with Onur Tukel,
Yes.
Who co-wrote and directed the film. And we had a wonderful talk with him, and we talked a lot about the film. So we're so happy to have you guys on here today to talk a little bit more about the film and about your long careers as actors.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, you talked to Onur already, hey?
We did, yes.
Okay, all right.
So I have, had the pleasure of working with Onur, and I know that it's a unique experience. Would you guys like to share what the experience was about getting the film? And Max, you've already worked with Onur in the past, so you knew what an adventure ride it would be. Kevin, what was your experience like with Onur?
When I first met Onur, it was at a party at someone's house, and they was like people were playing charades, and it just not like anything that I was really interested in doing. And I ended up on at least I was on his team. We were on the same team together. My point is, my first impression really was there was something a little bit, the same thing that ended up being like a source of great creative coming together.
Yeah.
At first, it wasn't that. It was the opposite of that at first. I'm trying to put it in a nice way.
You're being very delicate. Max, you worked with him twice. So, did you have a first encounter with Onur that said, "Hell yeah"? He's known as the Turkish Woody Allen. Is kind of how they
you can't say that
describe that. Well, but let's talk about it in terms of his creativeness and his writing, because you did Applesauce. So that was by the way, an incredible movie, and I loved it. Probably a very unique experience too, working with Onur as he was acting in that movie as well.
Yeah, no, I've worked with Woody Allen. I've had the honor to work with Woody Allen and Onur.
Well, there you go. So are they similar? Are the rumors true that they're similar?
They are very similar. I mean, I think Onur is extremely funny when he acts in his own movies.
He is.
He has, like Woody, he has his own persona that is really fun to watch. So I met Onur when I was sent to the script of Applesauce.
Uh-huh.
And I read it and loved it, and then said, yes to it immediately. And then I got together with Onur for lunch just to go over it, and we hit it off immediately.
And when you received the script, and this is a question for both of you, and I also think our listeners like to know this. When you get a script, what is it that it appealed about the story to each of you? Because this was a pretty intense story, and I know that you guys did it during COVID, and really talking about faith. I think that Onur does an incredible job of kind of putting all of his angst and anxiety and thoughts about the world into character-driven movies that kind of explore what it is that the world is facing at that moment. And I feel like he used your movie to really talk about faith, really talk about things that people were in a crisis around when we were in COVID. Did that appeal to you, or what draws you each into a film?
Well, I was impressed by how well he articulated all of that anxiety. It scared me to read the script.
Wow.
The same way Max's character is freaked out when his girlfriend is telling him how doomed everything is. He's like, "Oh, you're freaking, you're scaring me." That's what the script was doing to me. But it was also just that the script was so well written that it had the power to frighten and to inspire. It was all.
Yes.
This guy's great. He's great. He's just great. He's a great actor too. I love him when he acts. He didn't act in this movie, but I'm a real fan of Onur's of his as a writer. He's just just doesn't he doesn't have like it's not that he has no filter, which he barely does.
Partly,
it's just that his scripts are so well crafted. Like you said, Woody Allen is not like a unfair comparison to make, just as far as like his ability as a writer. and shaping these,
Yes, yes,
the dialogue, great dialogue, yeah, he's, so that's why I wanted to be in it.
yes, yes.
He's as prolific as Woody has been before they started to throw him under the bus. But Woody would put out a film a year for 50 years, and Onur could match that if he lives long enough.
Yes.
Right. He didn't even take a break during
Yes.
COVID.
No, I know. I mean, and I'm with you. His writing was extraordinary. I don't know. I did, just for Barb listener, I did Catfight, and Sandra Oh and I were given the script, and I don't know if this is the same with yours, but basically we were given the script and didn't know what characters. It was an offering to say what would appeal to you to be a part of this movie. Did that happen with you guys, or were you sent with the roles that you ended up playing in the films and knew that those were the roles that you were being asked to play?
Yes, that
you knew.
Yeah.
So
I thought Max was so perfectly cast, and I thought your character, really all the characters in the film were fantastic in their own way, but yours was particularly unique. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your character?
It would be fun for our audience to hear you describe a character, because I think it's very different for actors to talk about it than people who are watching. And it would be fun for our listeners to hear from you what appealed about your characters.
Onur, that's a character that Onur would have played himself. He wrote that basically that was him in the movie.
Which would have been very different, actually.
If you play, yes.
I think that, I thought you did a great job.
He was smart, Max. He cast you. Although he is a wonderful actor, I do like that. But I think he gained a level of maturity. Catfight was one of the first times that he had an entire cast that he wasn't a part of, and I think it gave his energy the ability to be the swirling dervish that he is behind camera, and allow you guys to have your performances. I think he got smart about himself a little bit, as much as I love his acting. Do you feel like there was something about the crisis that we were going through that you both needed to speak out through acting in this movie?
Not me. I mean, not at all. I just desperately needed to. First of all, anytime Onur asks me to do something, I just say yes, because without seeing it, because it's so much fun, and I trust him implicitly. I would just follow him off a cliff.
Wow.
And it was right at the beginning of COVID, and I was in a really horrible place, and I'm going through a divorce, and then my dad died 6 months previously, then my mother died.
Oh man,
and I was really upset, and just drinking a lot, and then this godsend email from Onur came and said, I'm doing a movie, it's about COVID, we're going to take all the precautions we can, but if you're scared, don't be afraid to say no. And I just said, yeah, when do we start?
Wow. Kevin, how did you approach your offering of this movie? Did you come on right away?
Yeah, pretty much. He had offered the part of Father James to someone not Thomas J. Ryan. And we were kind of waiting on that person, and they finally said, we're not. They didn't want to take the chance. They were going to be upstate for a while, whenever this thing blew over. But they wished us luck, So it was. Right. I thought I'd be out of it by then. This actor, I thought if they sign on, I will. And then they didn't, and so then I didn't know if I was going to do it too, and then I wanted to do it even more. Like, we'll find someone else, because what are we going to do? Not make films? What's going on here? Like the whole system is crashing, and what do we do about that? And we got to get out. Now's the time. Now is like more than ever. We have to make movies.
True.
So. And he was going to make it anyway, but he.
Oh yeah, Onur's going to do anything. He does not let anything stand in his way. It's one of the most appealing qualities of him.
Yeah, he's going to get out there. He's irrepressible, and and it was, but there was nothing wasn't like some kind of vanity project. He had something
Right.
very serious to say about what was happening,
Yeah.
politically and spiritually, um, and it was like this is great. This project couldn't probably well, to say that it wouldn't exist without the pandemic is obvious. But it's also, the movie's not strictly about the pandemic. It's about other
No,
things,
no, I don't know.
like.
Not at all.
But yeah, I felt the sense of obligation to get out and keep being creative. But there was all um, having that the characters were also facing the pandemic. It 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 justified making the movie. It was worth the risk
Well, one of
because
the
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
about the risk that we were facing. So it was kind of a hard
You
opportunity
know,
to turn down, actually, creatively.
yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting always, and people ask me, of course, sometimes, why do you pick certain roles? Why do you do certain things? Usually I'm like, because I got the offer. Like, what do you think? Like, it came my way and I said yes. Like, hardly like nobody, like people aren't pounding down my, oh no, I turned down that one and that one and that one to do this one. But I do feel like things do come into your life for a certain reason. And Max, I so appreciate you sharing your vulnerability and even saying when you were in difficult things. And sometimes we're in difficult places, and that's why films come to us, or the storytelling. But in the themes of this movie and I applaud you guys for shooting in COVID. It was difficult to shoot in COVID. I did that too. And that had a myriad of different, things that we had to put up with, and the tests and the this and the that. But I'm wondering in the conversation if the theme, which certainly Onur talks about, obviously you talk about it, Kevin, you're a priest in the movie, the issue of faith. And was this something that, did you go through a transformation with that? Was that something that you were looking for exploration with and exploring faith for yourselves?
Kevin is actually better placed to answer that question. He was raised Catholic, and I was raised a communist. So I can.
Oh, well, really? Well, let's hear about that then. Fuck my question. Let's go. Kevin, Catholic. So was Heather. So I know a little bit about that. Did you go to Catholic school there, Kevin? Is that were you working out some of the priestliness that you got delivered on you as a kid?
Well, Jesus, Ann, that doesn't
I
sound
have been for a while now, and this is probably, this isn't the first time I've played a priest.
No, that I know. Hello. We'll get some history with Kevin. And Kevin played, just for anybody who's listening, he's saying that because he played a priest in a movie I called Stripping for Jesus, my very first film that I directed and blew all my money on. And Kevin fortunately came and played the priest in that fucked up movie, because that was about my life. So then we won't talk about that, other than to say exploring priests is something that I've seen Kevin do a couple of times. But was faith something that you confronted here, Kevin? Were you in a faith conversation with yourself during COVID, or not?
Totally, definitely. I mean, we all, yeah. I was hoping to get something, to process something, if you will, to the degree that acting can do that, or that making films can actually do that.
Yes.
I mean, it did, in the sense that it gave Max and I a chance to work together finally, after years of wanting to.
Oh, cool,
and like,
cool.
That moment of impending, it's been coming for a long time, the wanting to work together. And that moment of alchemy came, and it was like, that's
you guys were great on screen together. They were great.
As natural as getting out of bed in the morning. It was just like, I can't believe I had to wait whatever it was, 53 years to act with Kevin. I'd been a fan of his before I ever met him.
Yes.
When we met, I think at a Labyrinth Theater Company intensive, ages ago, 10, 12 years.
Wow.
And hit it off. And then Onur wanted to make a movie he wrote a movie for the two of us called My Mother the Whore. and we didn't do that one. For whatever reason.
I think he might have wanted me to do that one.
You would have been great in that. You would have killed it.
And then we finally like, okay, we're gonna do this church movie, and I was like, whatever it is, I'm fucking in. Whatever it is, I live for this sort of thing, you know. And acting with Kevin, it was just like, oh my God, man. I mean, there are certain people in the world that you just like, you feel like you have your blood relation to them, even though you like never, they're not in your family.
Well, I'm wondering about you guys because of how people work together is really interesting, and I know this sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, and I am actually. But when I'm looking at you guys when I was doing Wag the Dog, and it was Dustin Hoffman and Bob De Niro, okay, and they had two of the most different acting styles in the world. But Dustin needs to know every single one of his lines. He doesn't like to be interrupted. He goes all the way through to the end of the scene. Bob, on the other hand, why you got you talking to me? You're talking to me. You're talking to me. Bob will go on one line until he gets it right. I always said I was the cymbals. I was always the percussion in between because Dustin would be. I would understand when Dustin was done, and bam, I would look at Bob, and then Bob would know he could talk. And that's really why Barry hired me, to be in the middle of these two guys who are so vastly different in the way they approach their work. And because he had worked with both of them, I think he understood that I'd be that kind of fun in between. The part was written for a guy. He's like, let's put Ann in the middle of the two of them, and ba-bam, ba-bam. And I would just always like play the drums around them, like bam, bam. How are you guys? What is your? How do you guys approach acting? I am curious, just as a fan of both of yours, but I think our listeners are fans too. How do you guys like to work? Do you have different styles?
I think Kevin would be like, he's like a bass player. Maybe like, I don't know. Like
We're going to go with the instrumental.
Kevin's actually a musician, so I don't know what instrument.
You got the low beat, don't you, Kevin?
I think like I'm like a really like fucking high strung, fast paced, like a ferret on crack.
Whoa, a ferret on crack.
Kevin is like,
and a string.
He's like incapable of a false note. He's so fucking grounded. He's so truthful and real. It's like he's like the yin to my yang. Like I'm super like, and Kevin's like, boom.
That sounds like us. You're the ferret.
Thank you. She just talked dirty to me, guys. Yeah, I'm a little ferret. Kevin, do you see yourself that way when you work? Do you see yourself as a grounded force? I wasn't lucky enough to be able to work with you enough on screen but we are all so older since the time we worked together in Walking and Talking, but in the maturity and where we ground ourselves, does that ring true to you, what Max says about you?
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm a little solipsistic when it comes to acting.
That's way too many syllables for this dumb bat. I'm doing a podcast, man. I'm not a friggin' professor.
Let's learn a word. Remember we say say that word again and tell us all what it means.
In other words, like in the acting classes I took, there was a class where you had to establish a personal space. You work on personal space.
Uh-huh.
Think of a place that your room, for instance, where you grew up, your bedroom, or recreate that. So I did that. I would do that in class. I would find a chair, and I would make a window for myself, imaginary window, and just look out the window and watch the class without actually participating in the class. That's what's
hilarious. My private space is in observation.
I don't know if as a human or as an actor or as a creature of a certain habit, I find myself drawn to roles where I don't have to do anything. And this is a great part because all I have to do is be there while Max Casella acts up form, and I can watch. And Thomas J. Ryan, I can do the same. I can just show up and watch. and listen.
That takes care of,
right.
and listen, that takes care of,
musically,
that takes care of 2/3 of acting, which is watch and listen, and then once in a while you have to say a line, and that's the third part.
That's right. And then, hopefully I still have a voice when it's my turn to talk, which a lot of the times I don't. And I kind of end up talking like sort of a more monotone, like below my, it's like, is that the line? Can you guys hear me? I was enjoying, I was being entertained.
Right.
Is it my turn to speak?
I used to work for a guy who used to be Marlon Brando's roommate.
Oh wow,
Old
that was
man.
interesting.
I used to clean the toilets in his off Broadway theater.
Well, we have something in common, Max.
I was like, could you give me some acting advice? I mean, you and Brando were friends, roommates. You studied at Stella Adler, and I was 19 years old. And I was like, give me some advice, how to be an artist. And he said, write it down and put it on your wall. Fuck art. Learn your lines and don't knock over the furniture. That's all it is.
Oh my God. That's the best advice. I say that whenever I do a show, it's like I take the entire cast out to dinner with I just plow them with alcohol and any other thing I possibly can to make the announcement at the end of the table. Listen, you show up on my set, know your fucking lines and show up on time.
And now you've gotten them completely hungover.
And now, well, exactly. Then they're more pliable. But it really is like the simplest of things is often watch, listen, and then speak when it's your cue time.
Now, how did both of you get into acting? I know it's always interesting to hear people's paths to acting. And I know you both have been in the business for a very long time. And I know Max was obviously Vinny on Doogie Howser. That was kind of what I grew up with.
Another thing we have in common, Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes.
How do you know Neil Patrick Harris?
Okay, well, after Doogie Howser and your incredible run of success with Doogie, I was doing a play called Proof on Broadway, and I was the fourth string. I have to tell you, they thought it was going to close down. I turned that shit around. Don't worry about that. But they did give me a new cast, and it was a 4-character play. And Neil Patrick Harris was my love interest in the play. And so we were on Broadway together for 9 months. And what's amazing about that story with Neil was that he came on, into the play completely straight, right? And I'm saying to the girl who's one of his friends who's playing my sister in the show, I'm like, Doogie ain't straight. I have to kiss him on stage, and I know what happens after I kiss people. Like a few nights in a row, you get pretty he's not getting comfortable. This guy, there's something going on. And it was during the run of the play that he fell in love. And that's it was one of the most beautiful stories, because that's how long ago it was, because now he's like an icon of understanding what it is to stand up for truth and love. And I was with him during that transition and feel very grateful for that time, because once
Is that when you met his husband?
Yes. And
his husband's an actor?
No, his husband isn't an actor. I don't know if his husband. I don't think his husband is an actor, but he wasn't in the play with us or anything. It was
but
just
you met him during that time.
During that time and they came out together soon after the play was over. So I'll just turn anybody gay, and let's just look at that like, wow, not Anne.
I don't think you turn people gay. I think we've decided that. I think the world has decided that.
If there was going to be
already.
somebody, I would turn gay. Yeah. Anyways, that was my story. Let me just say this to Neil Patrick Harris. He and I had the most brilliant time. So if ever they would be understanding this, it was an extraordinary moment to work with him. He is one of the most talented motherfuckers. I will tell you what. I mean, how many years did you do Doogie?
4.
That sounded
4 years.
dirty. I didn't mean it to sound that dirty. You did it for 4 years.
Oh, I did Doogie, man. Behind the scenes, I did Doogie, man.
You did it.
That's right.
How did you get into acting, Max? Why? You got it, baby. You got it. How did you get involved in acting? What gave you the spark in your soul?
And what was it like for that show? Because that show was such a big
that's
big
a fun
deal.
thing to hear about.
Does everybody remember like the computer, the old timey computer, how it would start or end, or I can't remember, but it was like
you can ask the expert. He's here right now.
No, I was acting already 10 years before I got that on
Yeah,
that
because
thing.
you were older in that, right? You were
I
like
was,
already in your 20s playing a teenager or something.
Neil was 15
Wow.
and playing 15. I was playing 15, but I was 21.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm 6 years older than him. So people always like, were you guys friends? I was like, no. I mean, he was 6 years younger than me. He was like a little snot-nosed kid to me. I was like,
Yeah.
we get along great at work, and then after work, I'd go out with my friends and like party, and like he'd go back with his mom and make fucking oatmeal cookies. Or whatever. And my first impression of Neil was he was the first like legit white kid I ever met in my life, like for real white, like from like New Mexico. And I remember his mom and dad took me, Neil, and my friend from fucking Jersey, Eddie Carnivale. He took us to Disneyland, and me and fucking Eddie in the back seat of his mom and dad's car were like, our fucking heads were spinning, man. We grew up in like, I grew up in Bedlam, and my friend Eddie Carnivale grew up in Bellevue.
Oh my God.
And they're like talking to each other so nice and so polite.
Right.
And Neil would go, hey dad, you think that you might be able to stop for some drive-through? I'm getting some hunger pangs. Well, Neil, I think that might be a good idea, because I don't know. What about you, hun? Do you think maybe we'd like to stop? Sure, why don't we stop? And then me and Eddie are in the backseat going like, what?
Oh, God, what's going on?
Nobody's calling anybody a fucking asshole. Nobody's getting smacked across the mouth. And then we show up at Disneyland, and Neil is like, this really is the happiest place on earth. Like, what the fuck planet am I on? It's like the most unreal fucking thing in my life. I'd never been anywhere until I went to California to shoot this fucking TV show.
Oh
I had no experience. All the white people I knew were like deformed or fucked up in some way. They were like, and these were like legitimate white folks, man. I was just like, my God. I guess I was like really naive. I'd never been anywhere. Except 207th Street and fucking Post Avenue and in Inwood. And
oh my God.
But I've been acting for 10 years by that time, but I've just been doing theater. I think in an episode of The Equalizer or the
I literally just saw you last night. I'm binge watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And you were you were in that. I saw that last night.
I've been like guesting on that a little bit.
It's a great show.
What's your white boy story, Kevin? Where did you come from? Where were you raised?
Man.
How'd you get
By the way,
acting,
I worked with Neil Patrick Harris. He's a terrifically nice
was he
guy.
white when you worked with him?
Yes, but so was I by that time. Coming from it was a pilot that didn't get picked up. And he directed it.
We've all done these, yes.
And so he was, he seemed very, into the idea of directing this pilot,
Yeah.
And it being a success, and he was invested in that. It seemed, and it drove him crazy by the end of the week. It was like, like anyone else would have been. Like it was just, it was it didn't get picked up. It was kind of going in the wrong direction, and there was nothing that could change like the course of disaster it was on.
Yeah,
not even Neil,
yes.
with all of his good intentions.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that was my experience with him. He's a very good intentions, great guy. So anyway,
very cleverly put.
All right. Well, if Kevin's going to be all nice and all tonight, I'm going to have to share a story.
Please do. Yes.
This is the dynamic of the movie, the priest. I'm there going saying nice things about people, and Max's character comes in to say "fuck,"
fuck them, fuck them.
Yeah.
What these motherfucking people?
And I'm like, well, now, Paul, you gotta give people a chance. You have to give people a chance.
Me and Neil for 4 years straight had a fucking ball making that series.
Yeah.
And I adored him. We worked so well together.
I thought you weren't going to say nice things anymore.
He's getting to something.
I just said, because Kevin's like being Mr. fucking nice guy, I feel like, oh, okay, well, I gotta, say something.
So you're going to sweeten up now. I thought you were going to lay down some dirt.
I
Is
did
what
too.
I thought was coming up next.
There was no dirt. I mean, Neil, was a kid.
He already told us about the car ride. How could there be any dirt?
We had a great time. I mean, we really fucking worked well off each other. And I was always so impressed by how gifted he was for such a young kid. I mean,
that was the show.
Typecast. Yeah, those are the roles that I don't get. I'm like, no, I'm the weird mom. But
I always made the joke that
my
I was
kid's
like,
brilliant.
I was like Doogie Howser when I went to college because I didn't open a book since like the 5th grade. So I felt like I was a 5th grader going to college.
Brains and beauty, baby. You got them both.
Kevin, talk a little bit. You had mentioned that you grew up Catholic. I did too. I was beaten with sticks and fists by nuns. So for me, it's
always a good story.
For me, it's the nuns that I have a problem with. They're just, I've never met a nice one, ever.
Right. No, I know.
But so did you go to Catholic school or did you grow up? What's your story with that?
Yeah, my parents were Catholics, my father especially. And, they sent me and my brother to, we've lived in a Catholic neighborhood. All the kids went to, not all the kids, I would say about 60 to 70% of the kids in the neighborhood went to like St. Brendan's. And
That's
then there
where
was
my
a
son
public
went,
school.
St. Brendan's, but in Los Angeles.
Her son went to St. Brendan's in Los Angeles.
I have a niece a goddaughter who went to Catholic school in Los Angeles. So her parents drove her to school every day. What was it?
Yes, that's how it works here in Los Angeles. Yes.
He's like, can you believe that the parents drove the kid to school? Can you imagine driving a kid to school? It sucks in LA.
You're like 3 hours a day you're driving to school or back.
Like one day you wake up and you're like, you're just going to Uber, kid.
Kevin, I feel like we're in the bedroom with you and you're looking out the window a little bit, observing this and wondering which story to tell about your childhood.
I needed to have a window. So I
a window.
put up a piece of paper here to represent the window.
I see the window, and I see that we're somewhat reflected in it, except it's behind you. So, this is called Rear Window by Kevin Corrigan.
It really does look like a window.
The window behind me, where I'm hoping this is all going to be at the end of this podcast. You guys, you're both so incredibly talented. I'm going to take us out of Catholic school for a minute and just say, I think we're all pretty much the same age, and we've worked through this industry and come to a place of feeling very grounded in who we are as artists. And at the same time, I'm like, wait, I'm a half a century freaking old. I've got what's going to happen this next 50 years. If I look at all of the conundrum of my life and where I've come, there's a future that is really beautiful, and where I've landed this spot with my friend, being in a grounded place, not only as an artist but also a voice and feeling good where I am. So as other artists who have been in this business, actors who have been in this business as long as I have, with the highs and the lows. Where do you feel you are right now? How do you like your position?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hats off, Anne, for surviving Ellen DeGeneres.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You have my mad respect.
Thank you. Are you speaking from personal experience?
No, I'm just purely...
I'm not going to shy away from this. My window is right here. You tell me some dirt.
No, I've not had the displeasure of meeting.
I take that to heart. Thank you.
Just from what I could tell.
Well, thanks.
Thank you. I wish I could have. By the way, I like any compliment that comes around my survival, so I appreciate that one.
You have my respect.
Thank you, sir. So let's talk about you. Where are you? How do you feel? Are you in a place, Max, where you're looking at, I know any curvy road I can find, I do it. If somebody wants me to take a left, I'll take a right, and vice versa. Do you see yourself as? Are you exploring different arts along your way, or do you sit happy? Do you have a family? Are you sitting with children and going,
I have
"Come
a
be an
beautiful
actor"? Or what?
family. Like I said earlier, I'm going through a divorce. I have two
And by the
gorgeous.
way, I'm sorry
It's
because
the
it
rough,
sucks.
rough. It's really horrible.
It's really
But
horrible, and I feel for you. And more. Well, I mean, man, that's a tough
yeah,
one, and
but it's
our love goes
like
out to you.
it's 3 years into it, so it's like
No, never ending.
I'm coming out the other side of it. But I have two absolutely gorgeous, beautiful teenage daughters,
Oh, no kidding! What are
and
their names?
Mia and Joya. I have their names tattooed on my.
Oh, yes,
Aw.
yes.
Can't
Oh,
get-
gorgeous,
I
beautiful.
feature them in the film, but they're absolutely fantastic. No, as far as me as an act, I feel like when I was younger, there was like one litmus test for success was, big time movie stardom, riches, or absolute failure. Now, as a 54-year-old, 40 plus years in the business, I look behind me and I realize, like, wow, while I wasn't paying attention, I've had a wonderful career and I've done some wonderful things, and I actually have a good reputation, and I've matured beyond this, like, well, what is success? Well, success is more than just, absolute, winning the fucking lotto, the $10 billion ball, and abject failure. There is a lot of fucking in between.
Right.
And I feel very good about myself as an artist and an actor, and I've very good about some of the stuff I've been able to do, and I'm in a really good place in my head.
Yes,
Anyway,
it's a nice place.
Do you guys find that getting to your 50s, you thought you'd be like a grown up by now? Like that you don't feel as different as you thought you would feel? Or do you? Do you feel like you're 54?
I'm living my 20s in my 50s, because
Yeah,
in my 20s, I didn't have my 20s. My 20s didn't.
Yeah.
In my 20s, I wasn't even in puberty during my 20s. I have a growth problem. I had a hypopituitarism of a medical condition, and me and my brother share. So I reached physical puberty at 27. So I missed my 20s.
That is so interesting. I've never even heard of that before. Wow.
And that's why you were able to play Vinny.
That's why I was playing kids.
Yeah. Wow.
And then when I reached puberty, after doctors started pumping me full of testosterone and growth hormone to try to like jumpstart my development, then I became like fat, and my agents dropped me, and I was a has-been.
Oh my God.
I was that show Doogie Howser. I was a child star who was neither a child nor a star, and yet had all the stigma of that. And I had to start over completely, not just start over, but from a real negative place. As a grown-up, as a man. And then when I got into The Lion King, I opened The Lion King in 1997. I was in the original company. And that show was so physical that finally all the testosterone and growth hormone I was taking with this massively physical marathon every fucking night, 8 shows a week, I became like an Adonis.
Oh,
like all I was doing was taking testosterone and growth hormone and not exercising. And so it put on all this body mass and no muscle, and it was all fat. And my agents dropped me. And hold on, my girlfriend's here. I got to buzz her in. Kevin, take over.
Well,
that's so fun.
Yeah. What Max means to say is he's in midstream in life. He's doing okay. He's getting to.
Yeah. I like the interpretation. Would
told
you
me-
like to
you remember
introduce us
that
to your
Max told me
girlfriend?
My
Max told
girlfriend
me
actually is in the movie. She's in the movie. She plays
Well,
my
let's say
girlfriend in the movie.
hi. I mean, you know, she
I'm
doesn't
gonna
have
put
to
her
live
on.
behind the door.
She played my girlfriend in the movie.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness
fantastic!
sakes.
The
Well,
one,
if
the one that loves Catholicism.
Yeah, that one. we met that day. We were like, "How do you do, Max? How you, Manny? Let's take our clothes off, get into bed."
Really? Wait, you did? You
That
met
was
on
a
the movie?
scene in
Yes,
the movie.
yes,
It
you
wasn't-
met in
yeah.
the movie.
He's not
And that was
speaking out of
just,
school.
it was just really, it was just like that naked self and my naked self. Let's do it.
Right.
Are you happily ever after?
Yeah, like you and
And who? Please tell me because he's not here.
no, she. What's her name? The most beautiful.
Joan Chen?
Joan Chen.
How did I know you were thinking that? Because you watched a love scene with Joe Chen. I don't even know if you know that Heather is my
don't
PR
watch
person,
her
but she's
movies.
never seen
An
any one of my
amazing,
movies. So she
amazing-
definitely doesn't know that I've worked with Joan Chen,
I
nor
have
does
to
she know
watch-
that I did a gay love scene with her, huh?
That was an amazing love scene.
Well, thank you. I directed that. Kicked the director off set, by the way. His name was Donald Campbell, and he was such a sleazeball that Joan and I wouldn't work with him.
Come in.
But she can.
Annie, come here. Look at this. Come here. Annie's here.
Oh, good. Annie, come meet us.
is
We're
Ann
Ann and
Hayes.
Heather.
And,
Are you
Hi,
kidding
beauty.
me? Hi, how are you?
Congratulations on your movie and your new boyfriend.
And I
That's not
sat in a
you.
room with you for that baby shower scene in Catfight.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh
How
my God!
fun.
Hello, the troop, the Onur Tukel troop.
I know, right? I got a 7-cent check in the mail the other day. Thanks.
Yeah,
to you.
7 cents. You gotta frame that shit.
I love this. Oh my God. What? I was like, who's inside the apartment right now? This is such a surprise.
You're on Better Together with Ann and Heather, our podcast today, where we have Max and Kevin joining us and talking about the movie and talking about Onur. So it is fun. That was a scene that we did with Alicia Silverstone and my character in Catfight. Just for anybody who's listening who have not seen Catfight, which is everybody, Alicia and I are lovers in the movie.
I saw
and
and loved
she was an absolute hilarious dream and a beautiful person. I mean, she's one of my dearest friends too. But that was a funny fucking scene. I'll tell you what. It's fun to see you again.
Totally. You're so pissed. Great. Totally great. Wow. What if for everyone who can't see, because this is a podcast, both the hosts look incredible. You guys really did a good job of showing up to the world right now.
Well, heck,
thanks,
we'll
sister.
take the compliment, girlfriend. Thank you.
We can't see ourselves because we don't have our glasses on.
Yeah, we don't have glasses, and you all are looking
Here,
great.
I'll put my glasses on. Yeah, you look great.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, good. Thank you. We got it. As we wrap up today, and now that we have the fun of having Annie on, what is there a story that we could tease Onur about? Because I know there were a couple on the set with Catfight, like when Sandra Oh understood that she wasn't going to get any fight rehearsal. She's like, "Where's the choreography?" I'm like, "The choreography? You haven't been here very long, have you? Listen, Sandra, there ain't no choreography, honey. And by the way, the fight that was written for the top of the roof, we're doing it in a stairwell." She's like, "I wasn't given the notes." I'm like, "And you never will be." He's a unique person to work with.
Well, I only met him for an hour, and I feel like if you say something like this, he'll obsess over it. If you like,
it's okay. He'll obsess over anything I say, good or bad. And I'm sure I've already told him this.
Ryan, by the way, where's he been?
he couldn't make it for
He
whatever
flaked.
reason.
Maybe he's having afternoon sex. Which
Oh,
is
I
good for him.
actually know why. He didn't have. Can I say why?
No, what?
He didn't have a computer. He didn't have access to technology.
Oh man, I want to be
Oh,
him.
come on. That's
As
my
we-
favorite. That's so Thomas J.
It's so
Ryan.
endearing, isn't it?
Endearing way, exactly.
It's like I don't have the contraption
yeah.
to make it happen.
I love that. I love that. But as we close, I'd love for you guys to either share a story or a hello to Onur, because we did do an interview with Onur, and we will be maybe putting some of what he said about you guys and some of what you say about him together. Is there a love poem that you would like to give to Onur?
Kevin?
Oh, wow.
Or
Kevin,
razz him a little bit.
yeah, I'm not asking for real poetry here, but any storytelling.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Onur's a fucking nut.
Oh, my goodness.
And so are you.
So are you.
Oh, I'm on it.
And so are you. Yeah. No, Onur.
Heather
Onur-
caught you.
It's a family. I love
You
it.
said that?
Yeah.
They just said that.
You also call him the Turkish Woody Allen?
Woody Allen.
Well, I don't think that
He
was my
just
first.
walked in, didn't hear you say that, and said that.
Well,
Oh,
I
I
mean,
thought
we're
it was
obviously
so
all on the
original.
same page today.
Well,
I thought it was so
Wikipedia
original.
says that, I think.
I know. I don't think it was the first. I don't think it's the first, Max. I think that might have been from. I think that's how they. I think that's how I was pitched Catfight. He's the Turkish Woody Allen.
I love that we all just actually, like, I definitely thought of it myself, as in I just hadn't heard
You
it anywhere
did.
else.
Well,
So
then
that
you
it-
are
that
the
makes
most
it all the
original.
more true. Yeah.
Yes.
All the more
Well,
true.
good. Then he will take that as a compliment, and I love that you said that.
And be
Yeah,
as
give us a-
sensitive about all of our testy comments as Woody Allen, I imagine, would be.
Working on this movie gave me an excuse to watch all of his films that I hadn't yet seen,
Yes. Yeah.
including that cat fight, which you were tremendous in. You were wonderful in that movie.
Thank you.
The scene between you and Ariel, where you're
Oh,
really laying into her because of the
yes.
blue. There's something about the blue thing.
Yes.
It's great. It's great.
I scared the shit out of her and Owner, and they hadn't told me that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. And I'm like, listen, I am this girl. I got to take her down. And I'm like, Owner, if you understand the ego of the character that I'm playing and I've given it to you, I have to reveal the whole truth behind playing somebody who is such an egomaniac is got to come out in this moment. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I am going to fuck with this girl in a really bad way. Now, sometimes there are scenes that are written, and sometimes scenes are written in movies and you're like, well, I stick to the script, and I really do stick to the word. In this particular instance, Ariel has the voice. She's supposed to be my assistant. She's got a voice about 2 octaves higher than I do. And it is three. But if I mean, really, I was playing a perspective of a self-indulgent egomaniac. That was the character that I was playing. But I'm like, the issue
Where
with
did you learn how to do that? Was that from your?
I watched a couple of people be
that
that
your
and
time
treat me
living
that
with
way, and
Ellen?
then I knew how to do it.
Was that like from
Oh,
your
goodness.
time with
Oh,
Ellen?
goodness.
Ellen
It is. I mean, to be absolutely honest with you, it
channeling
absolutely was.
Ellen during that period.
Well, I think I was a little bit more creative than just a channel, but it had something to do with it.
Good one.
But that was, and then it was only after I made her kneel down in front of me, on camera, and the owner didn't know what I was doing. She cried. She was on the floor. Literally, I put her on the floor and I made her cry. And after I said, Owner, you're not allowed to tell her that I'm going to fuck with her, because unfortunately, you're never going to get the reaction unless I can do it for real. But that is a stubborn thing to say, but also an important thing to say when you're talking about true selfish fucking motherfucking person. So she walked out and she was in tears, and Owner was in tears, and I'm like, I'm sorry, motherfucker. Now I can apologize. Come here. And I took Ariel in my arms, and I was like, you poor little thing. And she's like, you know her. She's like this little darling little girl. But I said, the more intense it is to do this scene with her, the better it is, because she comes back and wins over me and controls me and takes my business and treats me the way that I treated her. So, it was worth it in the long run to make his girlfriend weep at my feet. But there are certain moments you get to do something, and Owner's scripts allow you to do that. And I really want to say, as we're wrapping this up today, first of all, what a pleasure it was to talk to you guys. But understanding Owner, wanting us we both wanted to have you here to talk about the experience of what this movie is, talk about faith, talk about your incredible performances, and it's so nice to meet you, and also say that we are all these huge fans of a man who does films that are about something that reach people on a very different level, humanitally. I don't even know if that's a word, but in their souls, it rocks us, and it makes us think more and believe more and go further as we reach as artists. So I'm just going to say for all of us that we're grateful to Owner.
If only there were like more owners today now, that there used to be a lot of them.
Yeah,
and Owner is
exactly.
now sort of on his own, because I think he's one of the rare people. And Sean Baker, I'm another big fan of his.
Okay, well, that's going to be a next podcast when you do one of his moves. Then you can come back and talk about him. We're going to end today with a celebration.
There should be more of them.
Yeah. More of them and more of the movies like you guys do.
Cheers to the Turkish delight.
Cheers to the Turkish delight, you guys. Until next time, everybody, live in loving kindness.
And don't be a dick.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Take care. Be a dick.
And a big thanks to our Better Together team, Ryan Tillotson, Sebastian Alcala, Daniel Ferreira, and of course, Ann and Heather. If you haven't already, please subscribe on whatever device or platform you're listening to this on. And as always, see you next week.
We're better together with Ann and Heather.